When I think of the currency aspect, it's more, the currency on chain in terms of how is value kind of transferred between code. It's not like currency where we're going to go to the store and buy something, but in order for these actions to occur, this activity to happen, you do need some value transfer mechanism, but it's all in crypto in that sense. So I kind of see the currency piece there, but I completely agree with you. I think it's a high beta tech trade on one hand. There's the argument we've presented on the show as well that maybe there's the long-term kind of store of value if you think the dollar's dead sort of thing. But it's definitely not, hey, I'm going to go to the bar and pay in Bitcoin on Friday night.
Which is what I thought it would be.
Yeah. Well, I think the way that, going back to how we opened the show, maybe the way to look at this is, you take that currency component and just start to price the other areas of crypto, the other stuff that you could invest in, you could trade, but price it in Bitcoin. Everybody prices it in dollars, right? So you look at this stuff and it's all correlated. It just goes in the same direction, and some of the smaller stuff has a higher volatility. But when you start to price, say, Solana in Bitcoin, you price, even easier, Ethereum in Bitcoin, you can find those relative value trades.
Yeah,
and sometimes there's, huge outperformance.
It's less interesting to us because of the liquidity issues with it.
Sure.
And because of the complexity of having to do something, as in your world you would say off chain, in our world we say on a different platform. So
we say off the hook.
So it's not something that interests us as much. We are products that are not contained in a single piece of technology, to me, are far less interesting. And so we have to get there. So that all of this is inclusive on it. It's not, it's almost like a betting app. You don't want to use 3 different betting apps. You'd rather be on one app and bet whatever you want. So you want something that supports everything. On a trading app, it's the same thing. And the crypto apps are cool, but I have no interest in a crypto specific app because you can't do anything else I do, and crypto's too narrow for me. So that's the problem. We'll get there, no question about it. We're going to get there soon. If the regulators weren't involved, we'd be there tomorrow.
Sure, absolutely.
We would have been there yesterday.
Yeah, we've been there yesterday.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we get to that one-stop shop. In the meantime, I've got a topic today that maybe you'll find interesting. You might be interested in this idea. I'm going to try to convince you to start a DAO. Let's start Tasty DAO.
A DAO.
A DAO, yeah.
Okay.
Are you familiar with a DAO?
Yeah, I'm familiar with it.
DAO?
Yeah, it could be. It could be DAO. But I think it's like DAO. But I like your interpretation.
Hey, what are we going to do with this DAO?
Well, first of all, what is a DAO? If
it's a 30 stocks.
You're not familiar. Yeah. This stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization. So what the hell is that? Conceptually, the way to think about this is that it's a structure, an organizational structure for making collective decisions and then allocating capital without a central authority. Completely a different way to think about management of an entity or a structure compared to a corporation.
Okay.
Where a corporation is going to be obviously top down. This is more of a democratic kind of process in a sense. So it replaces top-down management with peer-to-peer decision making. And this all occurs on a blockchain. We'll get into the whole, what does this have to do with crypto thing in a second. It runs automatically through smart contracts. What that simply means is that the rules of the organization, whatever they are, they're programmed in and they execute on chain. It's transparent. It just runs automatically. No one has to decide whether or not it should or shouldn't occur. But everything progresses via proposals. So if you're a member of a DAO, you vote on how to manage the assets and how to allocate resources. So if you have a token or you have a way to participate, which we'll talk about in a second, then you have a say in what the DAO essentially does with its treasury, with the capital that it has. A friend of mine, I think, described this best and looked at this and said that this is really a chat room with a bank account. Because that's how you see in the digital space a lot of these communities and these DAOs, these organizations form. It's people coming together in a decentralized way where they're not, in a single location or physically in the same territory, but they're coming together in a group or on a server on Discord, for example, and they're organizing. And then when you do have that kind of crypto as a currency component to this, you have economic incentives, you have value transfer. And so there's a lot of ways that this decentralized autonomous organization can evolve as a result. And we'll get into some kind of interesting thoughts as we go through this. So just to reiterate, how is this different from a corporation? Sounds somewhat similar. I mean, the big difference is that this is decentralized, and the decision making is really made by those that have all the skin in the game. Whereas arguably, employees of a company might be shareholders of that company as well, but the biggest shareholders typically don't work for the company, to put it that way. So that's how it's different from a corporation. If we jump to the next slide, we'll talk a little bit more about the details. How does this work? Like, where's the crypto component? So as I said, this all happens on-chain. The biggest blockchain right now for DAOs, and there isn't a specific one, but most of this is happening on Ethereum. Maybe it shifts elsewhere. We'll see. To participate in the DAO, all you have to do is hold the governance token. Now, that governance token could be something where there's millions of them out there. We'll talk about some of the platforms or protocols that we've discussed previously that are actually DAOs, that are governed by the token holders. But
Like, give me an example of something that I would recognize.
Uniswap, the exchange, is also a DAO, or I should say is governed by a decentralized autonomous organization. You have a team of developers, you have executives, and there's different leadership roles. And I'm not saying that there's a one-size-fits-all kind of structure with a DAO, but largely there is a governance component that is democratic. And its proposals can be pushed forth or voted on by those token holders. But that token holder could be kind of like a shareholder, as we're describing with Uniswap and the governance token. It could also be someone that holds an NFT. So you could have a DAO that maybe has 100 members or 1,000 members or 10 members, but each person has this digital representation, this ownership within that structure. And there's unique incentive structures that result from this. So you could have something where you're building a company and you have one specific task that you need to get done. You don't need to hire a full employee. You almost look at this as a developer would when they're hunting for bounties or they're hunting for bugs. And you just get this one thing done. But it's likely that if you can incentivize it through this mechanism, you could find someone who has an expertise in that. And when you look at expertise and economic incentives, you get into this space where if there's a single purpose for a DAO, or let's say you have a company that specializes in a specific industry, it's very likely that there's a way to attract those with that expertise for that specific purpose. It could arguably be a more efficient way to attract and deploy resources. And this all hinges on those resources. All of these DAOs, they have a treasury. So if we think about it just simply through a token offering or an NFT sale, the proceeds from that NFT sale go into the treasury. Everyone that purchased the NFT, they didn't buy a piece of artwork or anything like that. They essentially purchased membership in the decision making around what we do with this capital. How do we allocate these resources? And it's super transparent. It's all on chain, so you can look at this, you can see exactly what's happening at any time. Any member or anyone can look and see how much is in the treasury.
There's going to be a form of this that goes hybrid. The next generation is going to be a hybrid form of this.
You're always like 2 steps ahead, Tom. It's no fair.
I'm sorry. I didn't.
Please, I gotta fit his head through the doorway. Will you please don't do this to me right now?
No, actually, I mean and that's what I wanted to kind of ask you guys as we talk through this. Like, do you think, okay, very interesting structure. When you look at this, there's risks to this. It's more of an experiment at this stage, but it sounds like your view is that maybe you could see a DAO or some of these things that are out there today eventually evolve into a public company, or like when you say hybrid, what do you mean by that?
Because the public company format today is, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be public, but assume that it's public. The public company format today was created, however, 100 years ago. Whatever, and it's evolved ever so slowly through the years, but it's kind of archaic the way it works. And as a shareholder, you're really just a shareholder, I kind of laugh when I think about the fact that I'm a shareholder and I get to vote for different companies that I'm a shareholder. I almost feel like I own Green Bay Packers stock. Really, I'm just
Right.
I'm not really a participant. I'm not really an owner. And I think that, there's way too much power in the hands of, the boards right now. There's way too much power in the hands of there's way too much power central in a very small group, with a very small group. And that's why you get situations where, board members don't change, stocks don't split, they don't necessarily make decisions that are benefit, everybody. Like, for example, some firms want growth, some firms want dividends, whatever it is. And I think that making it more transparent and representing it through tokens, or tokenizing everything, and or representing it on a blockchain makes total sense to me, because it's so much cleaner, and companies waste so much money on all this stuff that we can do it cheaper, cleaner, and it'd be 100 times more efficient. So I think it has to happen, but I don't think you're going to it's not going to be 100%. It's going to be a slow transition. I think the same thing is going to happen in finance. Just like, we're going to convert to a hybrid system of ledger technology and various forms of blockchain technology that are going to take over finance. I mean, the centralized clearing doesn't make that much sense to me anymore.
Do you think that if you gave power to shareholders in this format, call them token holders, do you think they would make better, more efficient, or effective decisions than the majority of kind of corporate management today? Do you think the wisdom
I think it has,
is more
of course.
powerful?
How could it not be? Like, just think about it. There is no precedent for choosing a few over a many. There's no precedent. There's nothing. There's and I understand there's some times when many can.
You need leadership, I think.
Leadership's fine,
leadership,
but that's why I'm saying it's going to be a hybrid. You're going to have some leadership, but leadership is different. Leadership is about, again, we're getting back to telling the story, but leadership's about telling the story. But I think that wisdom comes from a crowd, or a large crowd, and so the more the merrier. It's the law of large numbers. Everything we do.
We're going to start this DAO. We're going to start this. I've got lots of ideas. Before we jump into that, I want to talk really quickly about a couple of the DAOs that are out there, because I want people to think a little bit differently than just like corporations and how can you make money, because this stuff is fun. I think personally crypto is pretty fun. So here's some actual examples of DAOs. Not all of them have made it. I do think you need leadership. You can see chaos at times and failure as a result, but the strong survive, I suppose. But here's a couple, if people haven't heard of some of these. Archive. So Archive is working to build a museum collection. If you're a member of Archive, you get to vote, or you propose works that should be acquired. You can vote on which ones should be acquired, and then they're kind of curating a museum as a result. It's interesting. It's fun. We'll see what happens. Sure. Links DAO is really interesting, in my opinion. It's a golf community with all these real-life tangible benefits that you get as being part of a member. But the organization is working to build a network of golf courses, starting with one, going out there, finding the land, picking the golf course designer, just trying to do everything right, but bringing in the people with those experiences already to help make some of these decisions.
It's going to be a younger person's, what's the place in Florida, sounds enough with the
Villages.
The Villages. Going to be a younger person Villages. I got it. So far, that's my one in the running. I haven't heard the third one yet, but that's my one in the running. Go ahead.
I've heard the Villages is a good time. So Links DAO could be fun for everybody as well. But yeah, if you're a member of Links DAO, ultimately the idea, I believe, is to have access to all of these golf courses. Now, this is super, super ambitious, but it's extremely interesting, and we'll see where this goes. And a lot of people have probably heard of Constitution DAO. Ken Griffin beat them out in purchasing an original copy of the U.S. Constitution. I think they raised $42 million. I don't know where
it actually
Ken Griffin came in at, but the idea was to purchase this and I think maybe put it on display. I really don't know all the details there, but just an interesting idea, and you're seeing more and more of these things pop up. So I think we start Tasty DAO, and we look at this as an experiment. We figure out how to allow someone to gain membership. Maybe it's free, maybe you have to purchase something, I don't know. but then the crowd gets to start to make some decisions, or at least, let's say, propose ideas and see what comes of it. And if you had that kind of structure, then do you think, like any brand, and I'm just using Tasty as an example, but do you think that you could increase brand awareness, or again, do a better job of, I guess, completing some of these objectives or the objectives a company has than, a marketing agency or something like that?
I don't know. Like that's a very hard thing, but we have always believed. So like, even you've been here from the beginning. We have always believed in a relatively flat company.
Yeah.
Other than me having final decision on lunch choices,
right.
We're a relatively flat company.
Like I said, you need some leadership.
Yeah, you need some leadership, but we're a flat company in the sense that, what always bothered me about vertical companies is they move too slow, but flat companies move fast. I mean, if you want to get something done, your job is to go get it done. You don't have to go through 17 layers of permissioning to go get it. Like you build this platform, you go get it done. That's a very flat company. That's in effect, it's very similar to this. Like I shouldn't say it's not, like there are ways to build a company in today's world where you can still create a very similar, not exactly the same, but a very similar culture and a very similar way of making decisions and things like that. So that's why I keep saying it's going to be some form of a hybrid, because you've got to get rid of the really centralized authority and the really centralized decision making where everything goes through, some ridiculous board decisions of people that aren't even involved in the day-to-day operations. But at the same time, neither are the shareholders. So it's more of like it's a validation of. It's almost like an appreciation or a validation, and I think that's coming. That makes the most sense to me. I think these things, listen, building museum collection, golf, to me, that's all. It sounds good, but it's
like icing on the cake.
Yeah, it sounds good, but it's nothing. Like that's not a validation of the concept at all.
Right.
Like,
it's
to me,
not a Fortune 500 company.
No, it's nothing. It's nothing. And so there needs to be a healthy compromise between all this. And I think we can get there.
Yeah, what's really interesting to me about it, maybe we can deploy this here and we'll kind of wrap up with this, but I think if you take it down a couple levels to, say, the product layer, in terms of some of the decisions, and you could apply this to any brand. It could be, what design should we go with for the next collection, or, what app should we build? But let's use the app as an example. You have a structure, I think, a much more efficient mechanism to just incorporate customer feedback into your development process. I look at how you've built this company, we've worked together for a long time, and it's solely based on what does the customer want, what do they say, how do we serve them?
No, you've misread the message. We don't care. This is all about what we want. Yeah, no, it's never been about, no, just kidding. But we have a very close relationship with our customers. But one of the things that we have been very careful about is to listen, but to still do our own thing. Like if we were doing Jobs was really good at articulating this, and I took it to heart. But you have to believe in your own vision.
Yeah.
You can't listen to what everybody tells you. Both, if I listened to the private equity firms that invest in us or to what the customers wanted,
we never would have been anywhere.
We'd basically have built a charting platform.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what we would have built. So we're very good about actually, listening, responding, but we ultimately do our own thing. We have to.
Yeah.
You have to.
No, and that makes total sense. I do think that you need to let the users vote on the color of the platform, though. What color would you like it to be? This is a mechanism for that. You get to have some choice.
Only if you give them one choice, the color
I do
that you
think
want.
you need to have. I do think as a shareholder,
That's the Sosnoff way of giving you colors.
We couldn't have the light version. It would just be one vote.
No.
Okay.
there's a lot of companies that I'm involved with, and I'd like to have some say in it. For that reason,
Yeah.
that's what I like about this. At least I want to feel like if I'm like right now, I feel like as a shareholder, I'm just a shareholder hoping for capital appreciation.
Of stock.
Yeah, price. That's it.
Yeah.
I have no say. I don't really believe I'm an owner of the company.
Right.
Yeah.
And And I think that in a perfect world,
Even though technically you are, but yes.
yeah, of course.
Well, you have no way to increase that value yourself either
Exactly.
as an owner of the
exactly.
company. Yeah.
I mean, I get a proxy vote. I can vote for somebody I've never heard of.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, yeah, there are things that I would like that would be fun to do. But if it was simple, not if it's crazy expensive and ridiculous and everything else. That's the whole
Right.
thing. That's what this does. It makes it simple.
Cool. Well, let's see what we can do with it then. And that's it. That's
Good job. Good job out of you.
convinced him. We're going to start a DAO, right?
I think you pushed him in the right direction. I'll go that far.
We'll
I'll go-
continue it.
I'll go that far.
I think it's a good discussion.
Okay.
We're going to take a quick 90-second break and come back. We got more Tasty Live after this with a market measure. Next, looking at 0-day options. You're going to want to stay tuned. We'll be back in 90 seconds.